It is sweet to be a Florida Gator. Ding dong, the witch is dead. The Connecticut Huskies have lost, and their aura of invincibility is gone. Smashed into bits on one almighty slam from Elijah Martin and a 77-75 Florida Gator victory in Raleigh in the round of 32. There will be a new national champ in college basketball this year, and it may just be these Florida Gators, but they have a lot to clean up first. Welcome back. I am your host, Neil Schulman. You can follow me at All Kinds Weather. Before we go any further on this episode of the All Kinds of Weather forecast, please like, subscribe, comment, tell your friends, give us a 5-star rating and a nice review on Apple Podcasts. All that stuff helps us bring you more great Gator content. I apologize for my lack of a voice. As y'all can tell, I was there in Raleigh. What a venue, what a game. Lenovo Center does a great job, by the way. Shout out to them in Raleigh. It's a great site to host the NCAA basketball tournament. Just a lot of stuff there to do. I mean, there's a Pop-A-Shot set up at one point in the arena. They have all kinds of games for little kids. They have a mini mart inside the arena, like a convenience store in there. So if you need your snacks or your energy drinks or whatever, they've got that all for you. So definitely would go back. Definitely a good place to see the Florida Gators play should they ever go back there. Before we go any further on this episode, got to take a second to shout out our sponsor. All Kinds of Weather Forecast is proudly sponsored by 401k Generation, the wealth management company that helps you invest today for your future tomorrow. Their team of advisors is committed to providing guidance and education for your 401k plan and its participants, and they also offer a range of enrollment solutions tailored to meet the unique needs of your company's 401k plan. Whether it's savings for your child's college, investment advice, or even your retirement, 401k Generation's team of advisors makes getting to know you their top priority. Their advisors will tailor a path to assist you in navigating life's financial milestones and reaching your financial goals. That's 401k Generation, building stronger futures, one generation at a time. For more information, contact them at 866-998-5879 or visit their website at 401kgeneration.com. Gators are in the Sweet 16. That is a statement that I think a lot of fans were hoping against hope at various points on Sunday afternoon that they'd be able to utter truthfully. The Gators got more than they bargained for from UConn. And I think there are two main approaches we can take here. The negative approach is that Florida has played 3 legitimately bad halves of basketball in a row. First against Norfolk State in the second half, and then 2 halves of struggling against UConn. Will Richard and Alex Condon did not put the best on tape on Sunday. Maybe you can say this is what woke the team up. You can take the positive approach here, and you can say that Florida is not going to let anything happen to end their run of destiny, so to speak, if you want to take this positive approach and say, well, this is what woke the team up. This is what's going to make sure that they play better the rest of the way. This is going to be what fuels them to a national title. Before we even get there, we got to give Dan Hurley some respect. And I mean this sincerely because I hate the guy. And I think a lot of Gator fans do. But he had the Huskies ready to play. The Huskies were a very well-coached team. And Florida wasn't ready for a lot of what they threw at the Gators. The Gators were not ready for their traps, for one thing. 6 turnovers in the first 8 minutes of the game. If that continues, and thankfully it did not, but just for perspective, that's on pace for 30 turnovers in the game. Also, UConn losing Walter Clayton on some backdoors made Clayton look kind of silly and lazy on a couple of them. And that's not that Clayton is silly or lazy. That's just tribute to the design. Those are great play designs that UConn ran. Clayton's an All-American for a reason. He's an excellent player. He just got lost and looked like he didn't know what he was doing because there were some nice screens that were set, some good ball movement, and before he knew what was happening, there were feeds inside for easy layups. Not that he should be the guy who's even defending them on the low post to begin with, but that's a tribute to some of what UConn had to offer on offense. And the Huskies scrapped for every single 50-50 ball, and they got most of them. Florida actually won the rebounding battle. You wouldn't know it by watching every time the ball hit the rim and bounced straight up in the air, and there was a contested rebound. Some of them just came right to Florida. Gators got rebounds that way. That counts too. Felt like almost every 50-50 ball where there was a Gator and a Husky within range with a chance to grab it, almost every single one of them went to the Huskies. That's a team that fights. That's a team that's ready to go out there and do what has to be done to win the game, and you have to credit them for it. Very few bad shots from the Huskies too. Almost every single shot had a purpose that they put up. There was no selfishness in terms of guys hoisting up ridiculous threes. That Liam McNeely maybe took a few more threes than they would have liked, but he hit enough of them that you could justify that. Florida also helping UConn out, missing a lot of free throws. 22-34 from the line on the day. They did get to the line a bit, so say what you want about the officials. I know Dan Hurley will do that, invitation or not. But as Gators, we can criticize the officials all we want. Florida got to the line 34 times, attempting 12 more free throws than the Huskies did, just could not hit a lot of them. 22 of 34 is 64.7%. That's really not good. That's really, really not good. And in one stretch, Florida went 5 for 12. Just pick your adjective there. I mean, terrible, awful, pathetic, unacceptable, disgusting. I mean, whatever verbiage you want to use to elucidate your displeasure over an objectively terrible statistic, go for it because it's justified. When you go 5 for 12 from the line in a stretch of basketball and 22 of 34 for the night, I mean, whatever happens is going to happen, and there's nothing you can do about it. Thankfully, Florida won. No thanks to their free throw shooting, but as alluded to at the start, ended the UConn reign of terror. No three-peat. That is dead. The UConn dynasty, at least for now, because no one's going to win 7 titles in a row ever again like UCLA did, but for now, the UConn dynasty appears to be dead. The three-peat hopes are definitely dead. UCLA remains the last team to do that, winning 3 in a row when they won 7 in a row from 67 to 73 under John Wooden. 13 NCAA tournament victories in a row for Connecticut. Also, gone. That is now dead as well. Florida snapping that with its 77-75 victory. And really amazing how the circle of life goes here in college basketball because UConn became the first team to win back-to-back titles since Florida did it in 2006 and 2007. And so, of course, it is Florida who ends their run of dominance and ends their NCAA tournament rampage. Weird game overall. Just a very strange basketball game. Gators going up 6-0 in the early minutes of the game, and then it just evolves into a slugfest as UConn, I think, as Dan Hurley put it, turned it into a Big East basketball game, forcing the Gators to play it at their tempo, dictating the terms of the basketball game. And so the game was ugly and it was hard fought, physical, yeah. Stayed within 6 points almost the entire way, minus about 25, 30 seconds in total towards the end. But a nail-biter throughout where neither team really seemed to have the game or have momentum in their grasp. The Gators offense was stuck in reverse for most of this game. UConn, as mentioned earlier, forcing a lot of turnovers, 6 in the first 8 minutes of the game, forcing 12 turnovers overall. Gators were not ready for their traps, and at least for a while, it really felt like Dan Hurley outcoached Todd Golden in this game. But there was one problem with that statement because some bits of coaching happen behind closed doors when you never see the team play. Some of these coaching maneuvers are not even X's and O's related. They are Jimmy's and Joe's related. Recruiting is part of college basketball. Florida hired Todd Golden with the assumption that he was going to recruit elite athletes to the University of Florida. He's done that. Walter Clayton wins this game for Florida. Gators do not win without him. This game was decided down the stretch by Walter Clayton. The best player on the floor was Walter Clayton, and he made the difference down the stretch. Again, a game where UConn outcoached Florida. Hurley out X's and O'd Todd Golden. Todd Golden had the better pieces to work with. It's like Take Magnus Carlsen, the chess master. It's like if Magnus Carlsen is playing chess against someone who's got four queens to start the game. So yeah, Magnus Carlsen's a world champion grandmaster chess expert, so he can probably hang around for a while. The other guy just has better pieces, and there's nothing he can do about that. And again, Golden gets this credit because Todd Golden recruited him. Todd Golden signed Walter Clayton. Todd Golden signed Elijah Martin, for that matter. Todd Golden evaluated, signed, and developed Thomas Haugh. Todd Golden put together this staff of assistants, which is now unfortunately getting rated left and right by smaller schools who want to hire them as their head coaches. But that, again, is another testament to what Todd Golden is doing with this program. This is one of those instances where, for whatever you want to say about the frustration that this game came with, and there was a lot of it, because this game was outright terrifying for almost the entirety of it. For all you want to say about those struggles in the middle of the game, Florida won this game before it started. They won this game when they signed Walter Clayton Jr. because Florida had the best player on the floor. UConn did not have an answer for him. First, Clayton gives Florida the lead with a three. Gators are down 61-59. Clayton hits a three. He's not even open. Contested three. Drains it. A couple minutes later, about 1:07 to go, Florida's now up three. Hits another three. And now it's 70-64 Florida in the blink of an eye. Again, the crazy thing about both those threes, he wasn't open. Neither one of those were really great looks. He's just an elite player. He just knocked down a couple of threes that you go, no, why are you taking that? Oh, wow, he hits that. Let's go! Those kind of threes, you just pump both fists nanoseconds after rolling your eyes and going, no, why? Oh, let's go! Type of threes. Just an elite athlete doing elite things. First one, he's covered by Alex Caravan. He's got his hand right in his face. Somehow elevates, squares his shoulders, drains it over the outstretched arm of Alex Caravan. A few seconds later, or a couple minutes later, Florida's coming down the floor again. And again, jumps, squares his shoulders, midair, releases, it's money. Gators go from down 2 to up 6 in about 2 minutes. And then a few seconds later, the game is essentially put out of reach as Alex Condon goes to the free throw line. As was the theme of the day, he missed 2 free throws. But as UConn has a chance to grab the rebound, it slips away, goes right to Martin. He does not fumble the ball. He picks it up cleanly, easy dunk, and now in the snap of a finger, it's 72-64 Florida. There were not really any runs in this game to speak of. This was the closest thing to one. As Florida was down 61-59, now they're up 72-64. So that is a 13-3 Florida Gator run, and that knocked UConn down and out. Well, so it seemed, though. It did seem to knock UConn out, and maybe in hindsight it did. But a few seconds later, the Thomas Haugh story. Gators are up 75-72. Thomas Haugh gets the ball. He's fouled with 6 seconds to go. He's going to the line, 2 free throws. And this is the story that you dream about when you're a little boy or a little girl and you're shooting basketballs in the barn, or you're at your friend's house and you're just chucking up threes in the driveway, or you're going to the YMCA and you're just shooting free throws or jumpers there. This is what you dream of. This kid grows up a Gator. Thomas Haugh is a Gator through and through. He loved the Gators, mainly early on in his life because of the colors. He just loved the colors orange and blue. And then when he was, I think, 3 or 4, he was really little, Tim Tebow did his thing. Thomas Haugh was hooked. The infant who sees Tim Tebow dominating and doing the Gator chomp on the TV screen loves it, and he wants to join in terms of being a Gator legend. Obviously, a lot of work has to go into that. You can't just want to be a Gator and be a Gator. You got to go and put that work in. You got to go into that barn. You got to go to the YMCA. You got to go to your friend's driveway and put the work in. You got to shoot 1,000,000 free throws. You got to learn how to develop, in his case, because he's a front court guy, got to learn to develop some moves down low. Got to learn to play defense. Got to lift weights. Got to run, suicides in your barn. You got to do these things that make you physically uncomfortable and make you question your very existence. Why am I putting myself through this? This is so uncomfortable. This sucks. I want to just go in and play video games. I want to go and just play, Madden, or I want to go play NBA 2K or whatever. No, he goes and he does the work that has to be done to get himself recruited by colleges. It's only Florida and a couple of others, I think Utah and maybe Grand Canyon, or there's another small one, McNeese maybe, another small school that offer him. That's it. So it's a no-brainer for him. He comes to Florida, and he comes to Florida from moments like this. This is his chance now. It's what he's worked for his entire life. Calmly hits the free throws out. First one's a little nerve-wracking. It looks a little short. It hits the front of the rim, but he gets the roll. Second one's pure. And of course, it's Haugh. Of course, it's the kid that grew up a Gator who hits those free throws. And that's a huge deal because UConn would hit a three in the final seconds to lose 77-75 by 2. Thomas Haugh, of course, hitting those 2 free throws to adjust Florida's score from 75 to 77. Pretty big, right? Obviously, the final sequence probably plays out differently. If Haugh misses both free throws, you'd have a 1-score game. Florida probably plays much tighter defense. They'll either foul or they'll switch off. Hopefully, if they've learned anything from mid-major Mike and his various failures, not the least of which came against Wisconsin and Virginia Tech in the NCAA tournament, Florida would probably wait till they cross half court and then start hacking, forcing them to go to the line to shoot 2 free throws down 3. So, regardless, this game was never really in control by either of these two teams. Florida just had the better athletes, specifically Walter Clayton Jr., and then the great story in Thomas Haugh to finish it off, bring his Gators to the Sweet 16. His heart was broken as a Gator fan. He said that in public interviews before. His mom has said that in public platforms as well, that when all the Gator Nation's hearts were broken in the 2014 Final Four when they lost to UConn, it was Thomas Haugh who was as upset as anybody, as a diehard Gator fan himself. Score has been avenged. 2014 team, Patrick Young, Will Yeget, Scotty Wilbekin, Casey Prather, you have hereby been avenged. The Gators of 2025 have got your back. They have avenged your defeat and the conclusion of your career by ending the careers of several UConn athletes, including Alex Caravan and Hassan Diarra. Anyway, the tears that commenced from the Stores people, mostly from Dan Hurley. Boy, their fans really do take right after him. And it sucks that this is the prevailing story from the game. It's all people want to talk about, where Hurley just unleashed a rampage of profanity about how we got effed. He's talking to a Baylor fan because Baylor's playing Duke in the game after, yelling at the Baylor people, I hope you don't get effed over like we did, Baylor, was what he said. Like UConn, by the way, didn't get every single call all day long. You're cursing and screaming at Baylor fans saying, I hope you don't get effed over like we did, as if UConn didn't get every single close call all day long. Perfect example, Will Richard drives, ball is slapped out of his hand. He's also slapped in the chest as well. No foul, no problem with that. And then about 4 or 5 possessions later, Liam McNeely of UConn gets stripped. Maybe a little contact on the thigh, certainly nothing egregious. If any contact, it's minimal. Certainly nothing compared to what Will Richard had to take on the other end, and that's a foul. In the span of maybe 5 or 6 possessions, with the referee staring directly at both of those plays. So it's not even like Dan Hurley's whining is grounded in reality. Hurley's basically the offspring of Squidward and Eeyore if it was raised by a family of Karens. Like, it just doesn't matter what the tape shows. It doesn't matter what the reality is. He expects every single call to go his way. And if one doesn't, he just cries like a 4-year-old who asked for a new Lego set and his mom said no. So anyway, Hurley is going nuts. The reporter captures it on his phone, and then it just keeps escalating from there. The UConn director of communications then goes and tracks the reporter down, tells him to delete it, Yeah, that's not going to happen. And so then he threatens the guy's life if he doesn't. This guy's name is Bobby Mullen, by the way, the UConn director of communications. He's this guy. Let me see if I can show it on the screen. Uh, Virtual background in play here. That's the guy. This is the guy. Bobby Mullen is his name. Is the UConn director of communications who went out of his way to threaten to ruin the life of the reporter who shot the video of Bob Hurley going insane, which is absolutely astounding. Like, forget even reading the rules of the game, by the way, which clearly state that the referees are indeed allowed to call fouls on both teams. No, that's too advanced for now. Let's not even bother with that. How about reading the freaking Constitution of the United States? Like, let's start with the First Amendment. And of course, their fans who clearly have forgotten that their team is allowed to lose games is lapping all this up. They love it, right? They don't care about the First Amendment. They want to ruin this guy's life too, and then because they don't have any more games to watch, so this is definitely how they're going to spend the next 8 months of their lives because there's nothing else to do in Connecticut that doesn't involve staring at clouds of pollution that all their factories produce. I mean, you'd think with all the wildfire issues you've got going on up there, the last thing you'd want to do is be blowing more hot air around. And really, this all sucks. Like, it sucks that Hurley had to make the story about him again. Because the story should be about how Todd Golden has Florida in the Sweet 16 for just the second time since 2014. Nearly a decade of Mike White purgatory seems to finally have been ended. And Todd Golden, the Todd father himself, is now going back to San Francisco, the place where it all began for him, where he had his first head coaching job with the San Francisco Dons. And thankfully, now that the two-time defending national champions and the three-time defending world's loudest whining man-child are out of the picture, hopefully we can get some of the focus on this, because Leah McNeely's mother is also out of the picture. Because now Florida has a chance to reset things. They played really, really bad basketball, but they survived it. It did not end their season. And that's how this works. One bad day can end your season. One bad day where you happen to score more points than the other team, though, and it means nothing. You can hit the button, reset, get back to neutral, learn some things from your struggles on the game film, and play ball again in a few days against Maryland. The season is still every much as wide open for them to conclude it with a title as it was a few days ago before they ever headed to Raleigh. Florida will get a few days off and they will face Maryland in the Sweet 16, aka the Crab Five, a play on the Fab Five name of Michigan some 30 years ago. Maryland's Crab Five, led by center Derek Queen, who hit the game winner versus Colorado State. My voice is really struggling now. By the way, I'm amazed that Hurley still has his with all the bitching and whining he does. I'm amazed he can even still speak. I mean, I was cheering on the Gators for one afternoon with some gusto, and I barely have anything left. Anyway, Derek Queen hits the game winner for Maryland versus Colorado State. Did he travel? Probably. Did they call it? No. Which means that Maryland and not Colorado State will be joining the Gators in San Francisco. Derek Queen is, of course, their big scoring center. He leads the team with almost 17 points per game in terms of scoring. They also have a pair of guards who can light it up, but the Gators are going to have to be very careful about with Rodney Rice and Jacoby Gillespie. A very good overall defensive team. KenPom's advanced defense statistics, which just adjusts the numbers for every 100 possessions, basically just taking into account the tempo of the game and ranks all the teams in terms of points allowed per 100 possessions as opposed to points allowed per game, which you can have different numbers of possessions each game. So this kind of balances that out. Gators are going to have to be ready for this one. Maryland's a better team than Connecticut is. And Connecticut may have taught the world how to beat Florida. But just by trapping them in a corner, trying to get isolation looks on Florida's guards and losing them in the paint. I mean, that shouldn't be a way to beat Florida, but it almost was on Sunday. So the Gators are going to have to show that they can beat the trap and either have Clayton not get turned around in the paint on defense or have help waiting for him or just not have him in that position, period, which of course is a lot easier said than done. If it were that easy to not have that happen, it wouldn't have in the first place. But and make your free throws. Hit your free throws. For all the trouble that Florida had in this game, if they even make half of the 12 free throws that they missed, they finish 28 of 34 as a team, and they win this game comfortably. So got to show up, got to beat the Terps in San Francisco. I don't feel very good about the fan base's travel over to San Francisco. I've been told that there is a Gator contingent there. I know there is for softball. I know the Gators do recruit that area of Northern California pretty heavily for Gator softball. Tim Walton and his softball staff do a great job there. I don't know if that's going to transfer or translate over to basketball. I mean, the Gator softball team played Stanford in a regional 2 years ago, and there were a lot of Gator fans there. Will they show up for basketball? Are there enough Gator fans in that area of California, period, to fill up an arena or fill up a third of the arena at least, or a quarter of it at least? We'll find out. I don't know. I don't think so, but I don't know. I'm more than happy to be proven wrong on that. So got to show up, got to beat the Terps, and then it's a one-game season against either Texas Tech or Arkansas for the 6th trip to the Final Four in school history. And here's where the story is left up to the Gators. It's not written yet. The story pages remain just blank. They're just white pieces of paper. No ink on them whatsoever. What are you going to fill those pages with? I will say there was a moment where I thought Florida was done for. I am not proud to admit that, but when they're down 6 in the second half and UConn has pretty much anything working that they want, I was at least toying around in my head with the English that I was going to use to write the thank you posts like on Twitter. Like I wasn't actively typing them out. I wasn't that far along, but I was thinking in my head like, all right, this might go badly. If the Gators do lose, what am I going to say about Walter Clayton? Like, thank you for 2 great years. You chose the Gators over your old coach. You could have gone with Rick Pitino to St. John's. You chose the Gators because you thought that it was a family atmosphere here. So we're Gator Nation is so thankful that you made that choice. You gave us some memories we'll never forget. Thank you. Like I was messing with that verbiage in my head. I was planning that out. And as things looked darker and darker, as we went from halftime, when UConn hits a ridiculous 40-footer at the end of the first half to tie it, going from that to UConn building a 6-point lead midway through the second half, gradually increasing the lead from 2 to 4 to 2 to 4. Now it's down to 2 to 4 to 6 to 4 to 6 to 4 to 2 to 4 to 6 again. Oh, this may not end very well. Maybe we have to start thinking about that. If you can say nothing else about the Gators, we've learned long ago that they can win games by blowout. They blew out Alabama. They blew out Tennessee. They blew out Georgia in the tournament team. They blew out Oklahoma. They blew out Texas. These are all tournament teams. They blew out everyone pretty much that they faced, aside from North Carolina. They blew out FSU. Well, I mean, they suck. But, yeah, Florida blew out pretty much everyone that they faced throughout the course of the season. We now know that the Gators do have experience gutting and gritting and toughing these games out. Hopefully we don't have to resort to that in the next few games, but it's there as part of this team's history. They have added such a chapter to their story. Hopefully they don't have to rely on that and dig deep again and remember, hey, we did it against UConn. We can do it again here. Hopefully they don't have to do that. But now we can feel that much better that that piece of history does exist. And as I always say, the history is a great predictor of the future. So if you're not aware of it, you might just watch it repeat itself. Hopefully the Gators can replay different pieces of history from this season, which include them blowing everyone out. And so we don't have to stress ourselves to hell and back, and we don't all have to lose our voices as I have done in cheering on our Gators to another national championship. That's our show. Thank you everyone for watching. If you don't mind, if you liked our show, please go ahead, give us a 5-star rating and a nice review on Apple Podcasts. If you're on YouTube, like, subscribe, comment, tell your friends. All that stuff helps us bring more great content to the rest of Gator Nation. Story's not done for these boys. 2 down, 4 to go. Hopefully we can be buying more merch like this. This is just the generic ones that they had in Lenovo Center. They're cool, but hopefully we can get more that say Final Four and then national champions on top of them. So until next time, hopefully I'll have my voice. But I mean, if the Gators play like that again, I may lose it at the TV. But until next time, y'all, go Gators in all kinds of weather. We'll all stick together for FLORIDA. We all love our Gators as cardiac arrest inducing as they may be sometimes. My voice is gone because of the passion. You guys are watching shows like this one because you guys have passion too. Let's make sure that that passion is rewarded, Gators, by getting ourselves another banner in the O-Dome.